Lira was brought to the Grand Hall in silver chains to pay a debt she didn't create. She had no idea the man who bought her would change everything forever. By the time the truth was revealed, every alpha in the room was already on their knees. Subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Chapter 1. Sold at the Alpha Auction. The silver chains burned. Lyra stood on the raised platform in the grand hall, wrists raw beneath the enchanted metal. Rain hammered the tall windows as dozens of eyes assessed her like livestock. The thin white shift clung to her shivering frame, offering no protection from the cold or their stares. She kept her gaze down, platinum hair hiding the scar on her lip, the one Alpha Alaric had given her for speaking out of turn. "Gentlemen," Alaric's voice boomed across the hall, "the Crescent Moon Pack has fallen on difficult times. The Northern Council has agreed to forgive our debt in exchange for appropriate compensation." Beside him, Senna wore midnight blue silk and Lyra's mother's necklace, stolen the day after the funeral. Her green eyes met Lyra's, cold and triumphant. "At least you'll finally be useful," Senna whispered. "This wolfless girl is all we can offer," Alaric announced without looking at her. "She'll make a decent servant. We'll start at 50 silver. 30, called a gruff alpha, generous for damaged goods. 35, I need someone to scrub floors. The numbers climbed slowly, insultingly low. Each bid felt like a slap. 7 years of this, being called worthless since her mother died and her wolf never came. "You should thank me," Senna whispered. "Father wanted to abandon you in the woods." Something inside Lyra cracked. She lifted her head. "My mother was the strongest Luna this pack ever had." Her pale gray eyes swept the room. "I am her daughter." Silence, then harsh laughter erupted. "The girl has no wolf!" Alaric's hand cracked across her face, blood from her split lip. "You are nothing." The massive doors slammed open. Wind howled through, extinguishing half the torches. A figure stood in the doorway, cloaked entirely in black. Impossibly tall. Shadows clung to him like living things. He walked forward in absolute silence. The crowd parted. Even Alaric stepped back, face pale. The hooded figure stopped before the platform. Lyra felt his eyes on her. Something deep inside stirred, woke. "The bid is currently 62 silver," Alaric stammered. "Mine." One word, deep, ancient, making the floor vibrate. "You need to make an actual bid." 200 gold pieces. No emotion, simply fact. She is mine. Gasps erupted, triple the entire debt. "Sold!" Alaric shouted as already reaching for invisible coin. The figure climbed the platform steps, silent footfalls that thundered in Lyra's chest. He smelled like winter pine and ancient stone, like something that shouldn't exist. He reached for her chains. The silver, deadly to werewolves, didn't affect him. His hands closed around the metal and broke them like paper. Impossible. He pulled back his hood. Beautiful and terrifying, sharp features carved from shadow, midnight black hair, 3 claw scars across his left cheek. But his eyes, molten gold with vertical pupils, ancient and not quite human. Every alpha in the room dropped to one knee, every single one. Alaric prostrated himself. "Your Majesty, I didn't know." "The first alpha," someone whispered. "Rowan Darkwater." The king who'd supposedly died 500 years ago stood before her. very much alive. His golden eyes locked onto hers. Her pale gray eyes were swirling with liquid silver, moving, glowing. "No," she whispered. His gaze dropped to her forehead. Something burned there, a mark awakening. The dirt hiding it vanished, and a silver crescent moon blazed on her skin. Power erupted from her body in a silver shockwave. Everyone flew backward, everyone except him. Something rose inside her after 23 years of silence. Her wolf, pure white and magnificent, surging through her veins like molten moonlight. "Daughter of the moon," an ancient voice whispered in her mind. "Awaken." Her knees buckled. Strong arms caught her. Rowan Darkwater held her as silver light poured from her skin, illuminating the hall like a second sun. He looked down, and his expression shifted. Relief, recognition, like he'd been searching for 500 years. "Finally," he said. Her world went white. Chapter 2. Carried into the Storm. Lira drifted in darkness, awareness flickering like a candle in wind. Silver light pulsed behind her eyelids, waves of power washing through her body, reshaping, healing, awakening. She couldn't move, couldn't speak, suspended between consciousness and dream. Voices reached her through the haze, distant, echoing. "Your payment is accepted." Alaric's voice, eager and trembling. "You sold her." A different voice, deep, ancient. It resonated in her bones. "She is mine now." Strong arms lifted her, cradling her against warmth that smelled of winter storms and ancient stone. The burning cold of the grand hall fell away, replaced by shelter, protection. "Of course, Your Majesty." Alaric again, fading. "Count your coin, Alpha, and pray I never return to this hall." Movement, the rhythm of footsteps, then, "Please, she's my sister." Sky, her sister's voice cracked with tears. The arms holding Lira stopped. When the deep voice spoke again, it held unexpected gentleness. "When she wakes, if she wishes to see you, I'll send for you. Until then, your sister is under my protection. No one will harm her again." "You promise?" "On my life and crown." The words wrapped around Lira like a vow. Safety. After 7 years of fear, the concept felt foreign, impossible. But the arms holding her were real. The steady heartbeat beneath her cheek was real. Rain struck her face, cold drops that should have made her shiver, but warmth surrounded her, a cloak settling over her body, the scent of leather and metal. Then movement again, being lifted higher, the creak of a saddle. "Daughter of the moon." The voice came from inside her mind, female, ancient as mountains. Not the voice of the man carrying her, but something older, something that had always been there, waiting. "You have slept long enough." Horses, the steady rhythm of hooves on stone, then dirt, then mountain paths. Lira drifted through fragments of sensation, wind in her hair, the play of moonlight through her closed eyelids, the unshakable certainty of arms that would not let her fall. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time felt strange, stretched thin. She surfaced briefly to voices again. "Your Majesty, should we—" "No. Let her rest. The awakening took everything from her. She needs to heal." The deep voice again. Her captor, her buyer. No, something in her rebelled at those words. Not captor, not owner. "Protector," her wolf whispered, stirring in her chest for the first time in 23 years. "Mate." The word should have terrified her. Instead, warmth spread through her chest, and she sank deeper into the safety of those arms. Thunder rumbled overhead, the rain intensified, but she stayed dry beneath the cloak. Mountains rose around them. She could feel the change in air, the vastness of stone and sky. "Sleep now, daughter," the ancient voice murmured. "Heal. When you wake, your new life begins." Lira wanted to fight it, wanted to open her eyes, to see where she was being taken, to understand what had happened to her body, her wolf, her entire existence. But exhaustion pulled at her like a tide, and for the first time in 7 years, she didn't fight it. Because for the first time in 7 years, she felt safe. The steady heartbeat beneath her cheek, the arms that held her with surprising gentleness despite their obvious strength, the cloak that kept the rain at bay, the promise made to Sky, a vow given in that ancient, absolute voice. "On my life and crown." Lira let herself sink into the darkness, into the healing sleep her body desperately needed. Her wolf curled contentedly in her chest, white fur and silver-tipped ears, patient and powerful, waiting for her to wake and truly see. The last thing she felt before consciousness faded completely was the sensation of being carried through massive doors, the echo of stone halls, warmth replacing the mountain cold, and the absolute certainty that everything had changed. She'd been sold for a debt, bought by a king, and somehow, impossibly, saved. "Sleep, daughter of the moon," the ancient voice whispered one last time. "When you wake, you will rise as you were meant to be, a queen." The words followed her down into healing darkness, where her body knit itself back together, and her wolf waited, patient and wild, for the moment she would finally be free.
Chapter 3. The Regret Comes Too Late. 3 days later, in the Crescent Moon Pack territory, Alaric sat alone in his study surrounded by old records and empty bottles. His hands shook as he traced genealogy charts by candlelight. He'd been searching since the moment Rowan Darkwater had carried Lira away, desperate to understand what had happened in that hall. The silver light, the crescent moon blazing on her forehead, the way every alpha had dropped to their knees, the way the progenitor king had looked at her. Finally, that single word haunted him. Alaric's finger traced lineage after lineage, going back generations. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, his throat raw from whiskey. Senna had tried to enter twice. He'd thrown her out both times. There. His finger stopped on a name buried in records so old the ink had faded to brown. Luna Maeve Moonshadow, born 523 years ago, marked with a symbol he'd never understood, a crescent moon wrapped in silver flame. First daughter of the moon goddess's blessing. His finger traced forward, generation after generation, the line continuing in secret, hidden among ordinary pack wolves. Names he recognized from history, powerful Lunas whose strength had been legendary. And then, Lira Mooncrest, Lyra's mother. Alaric's blood turned to ice. "No," he whispered, bile rising in his throat. He grabbed another scroll, this one detailing the Great Purge 500 years ago, the systematic elimination of the most powerful bloodlines. The Silver Luna line had been thought extinct, wiped out by jealous alphas who feared power they couldn't control. But it hadn't been wiped out. It had been hidden. And he'd just sold the last Silver Luna, the rarest, most powerful female wolf in existence, to the first alpha himself. "No, no, no!" He grabbed another scroll, this one detailing the Great Purge 500 years ago, the systematic elimination of the most powerful bloodlines. The Silver Luna line had been thought extinct, wiped out by jealous alphas who feared power they couldn't control. But it hadn't been wiped out. It had been hidden.
And he'd just sold the last silver Luna, the rarest, most powerful female wolf in existence, to the first alpha himself. No, no, no! Alaric shot to his feet, knocking over his chair. His vision swam with alcohol and panic. The implications crashed over him like an avalanche. Gideon. The Northern Council would want her back. They'd ordered him to sell her specifically so they could control her, force her to mate with Gideon's son, create an unstoppable dynasty. They'd come for her, with armies, with everything they had. But Rowan Darkwater was the progenitor king, the first alpha. Ancient, unstoppable, the wolf who'd survived 5 centuries when all others died. No one was powerful enough to take anything from him. Alaric staggered to his desk, staring at the neat stacks of gold coins. 200 pieces. Blood money. The price of his cowardice and Senna's ambition. He'd traded a queen for gold. His hands closed around one coin, and he nearly screamed. It was still warm, as if freshly minted, as if burning with the heat of his betrayal. She knew, he whispered to the empty room. Vespera knew what her daughter was. That's why she made me promise. That's why she begged me to protect them both. And he'd broken that promise. Let Senna poison Lira slowly over 6 months, stood by while his daughter systematically destroyed the woman who'd called him friend. All because he was afraid. Afraid of what Lira would become, afraid her power would eclipse his own, afraid that when she woke, she would see him for exactly what he was, a coward. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud it rattled the windows. Rain hammered against the glass, relentless, punishing, never ending. It had fallen every single day since Vespera died, as if the sky itself wept for her. A curse, the old wolves said, the land mourning its lost Luna. Alaric looked out at the darkness, at the rain that wouldn't stop, at the territory that had withered under his leadership. And he understood. The land hadn't been mourning. It had been waiting for Lira, waiting for the true Luna to wake, to rise, to return. And now she was gone, in the hands of the only wolf powerful enough to protect her, the only wolf who'd waited 500 years to find her. Finally, Rowan had said. Not surprise, not discovery, recognition. He knew, he always knew, he was waiting for her. A knock at the door made him jump. Senna entered without permission, her face pale. Father, the council sent a messenger. Gideon demands. Get out. His voice was hollow. But father, get out. He threw the coin at her. It struck her chest and fell to the floor, ringing like a funeral bell. You've destroyed us. You and your jealousy, your ambition.
I did this for us, Senna hissed. She would have protected this pack. Alaric's voice broke. She would have been what her mother was, powerful, merciful, just, and we sold her like cattle. She was worthless, wolfless. She was a silver Luna. The words tore from him like a confession. The rarest, most powerful female wolf in existence, and we sold her to the first alpha. Do you understand what that means? Senna's face went white. The council will come for her, Alaric continued, his voice dead. Gideon will demand her back, and Rowan Darkwater will refuse, and we, he laughed bitterly, will be caught between them, between the council's wrath and the progenitor king's vengeance. Then we tell them we didn't know. They won't care. He grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. Don't you see? We're already damned, all of us. The moment I accepted that gold, the moment you whispered in my ear, the moment we broke our oath to Lira Mooncrest, we were cursed. He released her, stumbling back to stare at the coins. 200 gold pieces, the cost of his soul. Outside, lightning split the sky, thunder followed, and the rain intensified as if the heavens themselves condemned him. Alaric sank into his chair, broken and hollow. He'd traded a queen for gold, and there was no taking it back. The rain would fall forever. The land would never forgive him. And somewhere in the mountains, in an ancient citadel built by the first Alpha himself, Lira Mooncrest was waking. Waking to her power, waking to her destiny. And when she returned, and she would return, there would be a reckoning. Alaric looked at the gold coins and understood. He'd just doomed them all. Chapter 4: The Alpha King's Realm. Lira woke to moonlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. For a heartbeat, disorientation swamped her. This wasn't her attic room with its cracked plaster and drafty corners. This wasn't the grand hall with its silver chains and mocking crowds. Then memory flooded back. The auction, the hooded figure, her wolf awakening like a star being born. Silver light erupting from her body, strong arms catching her as darkness claimed her. She sat up slowly, her heart racing. The bed beneath her was impossibly soft, carved from dark wood with silver fixtures. She wore a silk nightgown she'd never seen before, cream-colored and fine as spider's web. Her body felt different, stronger. The constant ache of cold and hunger that had been her companion for 7 years was gone. Though she'd been unconscious for how long, her body felt renewed, as if the transformation had sustained her. The room was massive, black stone walls carved with ancient symbols that seemed to shift when she looked directly at them. Tapestries depicting wolves running beneath full moons, a fireplace large enough to stand in. Everything spoke of age, power, permanence. She slid from the bed, bare feet touching cold stone. Where was she? How long had she been asleep? The door wasn't locked. It opened silently at her touch. Lira stepped into a corridor lit by torches in silver sconces. The architecture was ancient, impossibly old, with vaulted ceilings and archways that predated any pack structure she'd ever seen. This wasn't just a building, this was history carved in stone. She followed the corridor, drawn by instinct toward an archway glowing with moonlight. It opened onto a balcony. He stood there. Rowan Darkwater, the first Alpha, the progenitor king, silhouetted against the night sky. He'd removed his armor. Now he wore a simple black tunic and leather pants, but the sword still rested across his back. His dark hair hung loose past his shoulders, and even in profile, she could see the 3 claw scars marking his face. He didn't turn, but she knew he sensed her. "You're awake." "Where am I?" Her voice came out, steadier than she felt. "The Shadow Peak Citadel. My home. Your sanctuary, if you choose." Lira stepped onto the balcony, and the sight stole her breath. Mountains stretched endlessly in every direction, their peaks touching the stars. Dark forests blanketed the valleys like velvet. The citadel itself perched on a cliff edge, commanding the landscape like a king surveying his realm. She could see lights flickering in the courtyards below, torches, wolves moving in both human and animal form. How long was I unconscious? 3 days. Now he turned, and those ancient gold eyes pinned her. Your body needed time to adjust to the awakening. Your wolf was dormant for 23 years. The transformation required recovery.
3 days. She'd lost 3 days. My sister, Sky, is safe. I sent word that you're well. When you're ready, I'll send for her. His expression softened slightly. I gave you my word, Lira. I keep my promises. She believed him. Something in those ancient eyes held absolute truth. Why did you buy me? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why come to that auction at all? Rowan moved to the stone railing, gripping it with hands that had broken silver chains like paper. I've been searching for your bloodline for centuries. Silver Lunas are queens among wolves, born from the moon goddess's original blessing. They balance power itself. My mother? Your mother was descended from the first werewolves, the bloodline everyone thought extinct after the Great Purge 500 years ago. He looked at her directly. She hid it to protect you and your sister, kept your power dormant, hoping you'd live normal lives. But I was wolfless, Lira protested. For 7 years, nothing. No shift, no instincts, no... You weren't wolfless. You were dormant, waiting. He took a step closer, and she felt it. That pull, that recognition that had sparked the moment he'd entered the grand hall. Your wolf needed an equal to wake. An equal? She almost laughed. You're the first alpha. I'm nobody. You are a silver luna. He said it like a sacred title, like pronouncing divine law. You can command even alphas with your voice. Your presence strengthens your pack. Your power balances the darkness in others. His gold eyes held hers. You felt the sale, didn't you? The moment I entered that hall, your wolf stirred. She had that inexplicable awareness, the stirring in her chest she'd thought was fear. The legends spoke of this, Rowan continued, his voice dropping lower. Silver Lunas bond with their true equals, not just any alpha, their match in power, in will, in soul. And you think you're my equal? The words came out breathless. I'm the only one who could be. No arrogance in his tone, just fact. I felt your power wake across 3 territories, like a star being born, and I knew, after 500 years of searching, I'd finally found you. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware how thin the nightgown was and how his presence seemed to fill the balcony. I don't know how to be what you're describing. I barely know how to be a wolf. Then I'll teach you. He moved closer, and she could smell him. Winter pine and ancient stone, power and promises. That's why I brought you here, to show you what you are, what you can become. And what's that? His smile transformed his harsh features into something devastating. Everything they tried to make you believe you weren't. Below, a wolf howled, long and mournful and beautiful. Others joined, creating a symphony that made her chest ache. They're welcoming their Luna, Rowan said softly. They've been waiting for you. They don't even know me. They know what you represent. Hope, power balanced with compassion. A queen who understands what it means to suffer. His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. This citadel is home to rogues, exiles, outcasts, wolves who didn't fit their packs. They'll follow you because you're one of them. Lyra looked at him, really looked, at the scars marking his face and the weight in his ancient eyes, at the controlled power radiating from him like heat from a forge. You're one of them too, aren't you? An outcast? I am. No shame in his admission. My pack tried to kill me when my power grew too strong, so I built this place for wolves like us. Wolves like us, she repeated. The words felt right on her tongue. Stay. Learn what you are, or I'll take you anywhere you wish to go. The choice is yours, Lyra. Always yours. She thought of her attic room, the chains, Senna's cruelty, and Alaric's violence. 7 years of being told she was worthless. Then she thought of the white wolf in her mind, powerful and patient and finally free. I'll stay, her voice rang clear. Teach me. Something blazed in his gold eyes, pride, relief, hunger. Then rest tonight. Tomorrow, your real life begins. He moved past her toward the archway, and she caught his scent again, felt that magnetic pull. Rowan? He paused, looking back.
Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. His expression gentled. I've been waiting 500 years to find you, Lira. Seeing you was the easiest thing I've ever done. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the moonlight and the mountains and the impossible truth. She was a silver Luna, and she'd finally come home. Chapter 5. A Queen Without a Pack. Dawn broke over the mountains like liquid gold. Lyra woke to a knock at her door. Frost entered carrying training clothes, supple gray leather embroidered with silver thread. The king says you'll want to see the grounds before training begins. Frost's ice-blue eyes assessed her with the sharpness of a warrior. Get dressed, I'll show you what Shadow Peak really is. 20 minutes later, Lyra followed Frost through corridors into a vast courtyard where dozens of warriors sparred, weapons clashing, wolves testing speed and strength. 237 souls, Frost said as they walked, every one rejected by their birth packs. Too aggressive, too scarred, too different. Rowan gave them purpose. They passed a forge where a one-armed blacksmith hammered a blade with skill that defied his injury. A female warrior covered in burn scars stood beside him laughing at something he'd said. Neither looked broken. Both looked free. That's Garrick and Kira, Frost said. He lost his arm defending his alpha. His alpha cast him out for being useless. She survived a fire that killed her family. Her pack blamed her for living. Lyra's throat tightened. And here, their family. They climbed to a high balcony overlooking the entire citadel. The scope of it stole Lyra's breath. The ancient fortress, the training grounds, territories beyond where wolves could hunt freely. All of it built for the broken. About time we had a queen, Frost said quietly. He's been waiting 500 years. We've been waiting with him. I don't know how to be one. You'll learn. Frost's grin was fierce. We start training at dawn tomorrow. I'll work you until you can't stand, then push you further. I'm ready. We'll see. Frost turned to leave, then paused. You're sweet. The king had everything prepared. Wardrobe, weapons, books. He wants you to feel at home here, not caged. After Frost left, Lyra returned to her rooms. The wardrobe did hold everything. Fighting leathers in her size, elegant gowns she'd never dreamed of wearing, soft tunics for every day, a weapons rack with practice blades, shelves waiting for books she'd learned to read. Everything she needed to become what she was meant to be. She moved to her balcony as the sun climbed higher. Below, Rowan emerged from the great hall, speaking with warriors who bowed respectfully. As if sensing her presence, he looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. The bond thread pulsed between them, that silver-gold light only she could see, connecting their hearts like a living thing. Recognition flared in his gold eyes. He didn't wave or call out, just held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. A promise, an acknowledgement. You belong here. And for the first time in her life, Lyra believed it. Chapter 6. Learning Her True Power. Dawn painted the mountains gold and rose. Lyra stood at the edge of the training ground, watching warriors spar below. She wore the gray fighting leathers from her wardrobe, her platinum hair braided back. Nervous energy thrummed through her veins. Ready? She turned. Rowan approached in simple black training clothes, no armor today. His dark hair was tied back, revealing the 3 claw scars and the strong lines of his face. Even without the trappings of kingship, power radiated from him like heat. I don't know what I'm doing, she admitted. Good, that means you're teachable. His gold eyes gleamed with something like approval. Call your wolf. Show me what you can do. Lyra closed her eyes, reaching inside to where her wolf waited. The white wolf surged forward eagerly, and the shift happened like breathing. Bones reformed, fur erupted,
and suddenly she stood on 4 legs. The world exploded with scents and sounds. She could smell every wolf in the citadel, hear heartbeats a mile away, feel the earth beneath her paws like living energy. Rowan shifted beside her, his massive black wolf nearly twice her size, gold eyes ancient and knowing. His voice entered her mind, warm and approving. Beautiful. Now run. He took off, and instinct drove her to follow. They raced across the training ground, through the forest beyond. She was fast, faster than she'd imagined possible. Her legs ate ground, wind whipping through her fur. Rowan led her through obstacles, over fallen logs, across streams, up rocky inclines. She kept pace, her wolf knowing things her human mind never learned: how to read the terrain, how to move with maximum efficiency, how to hunt. They stopped in a clearing, both breathing hard. Rowan shifted back to human form, and after a moment, Lira did the same. She stood there in her training clothes, exhilarated and trembling. "You're a natural," he said. "Most new wolves take weeks to move like that." It felt right, like my body remembered something my mind forgot. Because it did. Your bloodline carries instincts centuries old. He gestured to the center of the clearing. "Now we see what else you can do." For the next hour, he taught her how to issue a command, the voice that compelled obedience. She practiced on willing warriors who'd volunteered, learning to layer her voice with power until grown alphas dropped to their knees. "Stop holding back," Rowan said, circling her. "You're afraid of your power. Don't be." "What if I hurt someone?" "You won't. Your wolf knows friend from foe." He moved closer, and she felt that pull again, the bond thread humming between them. "Trust yourself, Lira." She tried again, this time letting the power flow freely. "Kneel." Every warrior in the clearing dropped instantly, even Frost, who grinned fiercely from the ground. "Better," Rowan said. He hadn't knelt. "Now try it on me." "I can't." "You can. Do it." Lyra met his gold eyes, gathering her power. "Kneel!" The command rolled out like thunder. For a heartbeat, she saw his wolf respond, that ancient predator recognizing her authority. But then he pushed back, his own power meeting hers in a clash that made the air crackle.
Good, he said, gold eyes flashing. You're strong, but I'm stronger. For now, she shot back, surprising herself. His smile was sharp and approving. For now. They moved to hand combat. He corrected her stance, hands on her waist, positioning her properly. His touch sent sparks through her skin. You're not fragile. Stop holding back. I've never fought anyone before. Then it's time to learn. He stepped back into a fighter's stance. Come at me. Lyra lunged. He sidestepped, catching her wrist and redirecting her momentum. She recovered, trying again. Each time he blocked or evaded with centuries of practice. But she was learning, reading his movements, anticipating. On her 10th attempt, she feinted left, then drove right. Her shoulder caught him in the chest, enough to make him step back. Better. He caught her when she overextended, steadying her. Their faces were inches apart, both breathing hard. You're faster than you think. For someone who's supposedly 500 years old, you're pretty slow, she said breathlessly. His eyes gleamed with challenge. Careful, little Luna. I let you get that hit. Prove it. He moved like lightning. One moment they stood apart, the next she was on her back in the grass, his weight pinning her. But she'd learned. She hooked her leg around his, used his momentum against him, and suddenly he was on his back with her straddling his chest. For a heartbeat they froze, his gold eyes locked on hers, surprised and delighted. I stand corrected, he said, voice rough. Lyra's heart pounded. She was acutely aware of his body beneath hers, the heat of his skin through thin fabric. She scrambled off quickly. Sorry, Don't apologize for winning, he stood, brushing grass from his clothes. You're a natural fighter. Your instincts are centuries old. They took a break, sitting on a fallen log overlooking the valley.
Frost brought water, grinning knowingly before leaving them alone. I never thought I could do any of this, Lira said quietly. For years, they told me I was worthless. They were fools, Rowan's voice held certainty, and afraid. Of what? Of what you'd become. They sensed your power, even dormant, so they tried to break you first. Lira looked at her hands, same hands that had scrubbed floors, that had trembled in chains. Now they'd pinned the first alpha to the ground. She noticed it then, that silver thread of light connecting her chest to his, visible only to her, pulsing with each heartbeat. Warmth spread through her chest, and her wolf purred contentedly. Rowan noticed her staring. You see it, the bond. What does it mean? The legends spoke of this. Silver Luna's bond with their true equals, not just attraction, but souls recognizing their match. His gold eyes held hers. When you're near, my wolf settles, the restlessness I've carried for centuries, quiets. I feel it too, she admitted, like you're home. His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then stopped. The bond will grow stronger. Eventually, it will demand completion. Completion? The claiming, the mating. He said it matter-of-factly, but his eyes held heat. But only when you're ready, only when you choose. Lyra's breath caught. And you're my equal? I'm the only one who could be. No arrogance, just truth. 500 years I've waited. For you. Their hands rested on the log between them, fingers almost touching. The bond thread brightened, pulsing with luminous light. If she moved her hand just slightly, a horn blared across the citadel, long, urgent, warning. Rowan was on his feet instantly, every line of his body tense. We're under attack.
Chapter 7. He Promises Protection. The horn had been a false alarm, scouts mistaking a merchant caravan for hostile forces. By nightfall, the citadel had settled back into its rhythms. But Lira couldn't sleep. She stood on her balcony in a silk robe, watching the moon climb over the mountains. Days had passed since her arrival at Shadow Peak. Days since her life had shattered and reformed into something unrecognizable. She should be happy. She was free, powerful, surrounded by wolves who respected her. So why did her chest ache? I could feel your restlessness. She turned. Rowan stood in her doorway, still dressed in his training clothes from earlier. He didn't ask permission, just stepped onto the balcony beside her. Couldn't you knock? She asked, but without heat. The door was open, and your emotions are loud. He touched his chest where the bond thread connected them. I feel what you feel, Lira, the pain you're carrying. She looked away. It's nothing. It's not nothing. His voice gentled. Talk to me. The words burst out before she could stop them. They treated me like garbage, my own pack, my own alpha, for 7 years. Every day they told me I was worthless, that I was a burden, that I should be grateful they kept me alive at all. Because they were blind, Rowan said quietly, and afraid. Of what? I was wolfless, powerless. No, you were dormant, and they sensed it. He moved closer. Wolves can feel potential even when it's hidden. They knew something was coming, something they couldn't control, so they tried to break you first. Lira wrapped her arms around herself. Alaric used to look at my mother with respect. After she died, he looked at me like I was trash. Because your mother knew how to hide her power. You didn't. Rowan's jaw tightened. They should have protected you. Instead, they tried to destroy you. I almost let them. The admission hurt. Some days I believed them, thought maybe they were right, maybe I was worthless. You were never worthless, his voice carried command weight. Not for a single moment. She looked up at him, this ancient king who'd bought her freedom. How do you know? Because I've lived long enough to recognize strength when I see it. His gold eyes held hers. You survived 7 years of abuse and didn't break. That's not weakness, Lira. That's steel wrapped in silk. Tears pricked her eyes. You don't understand. They made me feel so small. I do understand. His voice dropped lower. I know what betrayal tastes like. My own pack tried to kill me when my power grew too strong. Is that how you got the scars? She gestured to his face. These? He touched the 3 claw marks across his cheek. No, these I earned saving someone who wasn't worth it. Who? He was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the mountains. The woman I thought was my mate. Her name was Seraphine. Lira waited, sensing this was something he rarely spoke about. She was beautiful, cunning, told me everything I wanted to hear. Turned out she only wanted my crown. When I refused to give her power she hadn't earned, she tried to take it by force.
She gave you those scars? No, she had others do it while I was chained with Silver. He turned, and for the first time she saw the pain in his ancient eyes. 50 lashes across my back. They thought it would weaken me enough to kill. Lyra's breath caught. The scars on your back, I saw them when you were training. A reminder. He touched his face. These I gave myself afterward, a mark of my failure to see the truth. That's not failure, that's surviving a betrayal. Is it? His laugh was bitter. I let someone close who wanted only to use me. I trusted when I should have been wary. That's failure, Lira. Without thinking, she reached up and traced the 3 scars on his cheek. He went utterly still, gold eyes flashing. These don't make you weak, she said softly. They make you real. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch like a wolf starved for gentleness. You're the first person to touch them without flinching in 400 years. They're part of you, the part that survived. His hand came up, covering hers against his face. You're safe here, Lira. I won't let anyone hurt you again. I swear it. Why do you care? The question came out breathless. Really? His eyes opened, gold and ancient and burning. Because you're mine to protect now. He paused, vulnerability flickering across his features. If you'll have me. The bond thread between them flared bright. Lira felt it, the connection deepening, strengthening, demanding acknowledgement. I don't know how to trust this. How to trust you. Everyone I've ever trusted hurt me. Then don't trust me yet. His voice was rough. Watch. See what I do, not what I say. Let me prove myself worthy of you. Their foreheads touched, and Lira felt tears slip down her cheeks. His thumb brushed them away, gentle despite the centuries of violence in his hands. You're not alone anymore. Never again. Promise? I promise. The bond thread brightened between them, pulsing with radiance of moon and sun-merged light that made the air shimmer. Lira felt his emotions as clearly as her own, protectiveness, desire, and something deeper, something that felt like recognition, like coming home after 1,000 years of wandering. She tilted her head up slightly. His breath ghosted across her lips. Lira. A bell rang out across the citadel. Not the warning horn from earlier, something different, urgent. Rowan pulled back, tension flooding his body. That's the long-distance alert. What does it mean? His jaw tightened, gold eyes going hard. It means someone's coming, someone powerful enough that our scouts felt them from miles away. He moved to the balcony edge, scanning the darkness. In the distance, torches appeared, hundreds of them moving like fireflies toward the citadel. Who is it? Lira asked, her wolf rising in her chest. Rowan's voice was cold as winter stone. The Northern Council. They've come for you. Lira stepped beside him, watching the approaching army. Fear tried to take hold, but something else rose up instead, something fierce and unyielding. "Let them come," she said, and her voice carried command weight. "I'm not going back." Rowan looked at her, pride blazing in his eyes. "No, you're not." The bond between them pulsed once, strong and certain. Whatever was coming, they'd face it together. Chapter 8. The Council Attacks. By dawn, the Northern Council's army surrounded the citadel. Lira stood on the battlements beside Rowan, watching hundreds of warriors take positions below. Elite fighters in crimson and gold, their armor gleaming in the rising sun. At their center, a figure in ceremonial armor sat astride a massive, rust-colored wolf. "High Alpha Gideon Ironclaw," Rowan said, his voice cold. "Alaric's superior, leader of the Northern Council." Gideon shifted to human form, a muscular man in his mid-40s with dark hair graying at the temples. A lightning bolt scar marked his neck. His amber eyes locked onto Lira with calculated hunger. "Rowan Darkwater," his voice carried across the distance. "The progenitor king graces us with his presence and with stolen property." "I stole nothing," Rowan called back, his command making the stones vibrate. "She was sold. I paid triple your fabricated debt." "The sale was illegal. The girl is too valuable to waste on a rogue king and his outcasts." Gideon's smile was cold. "Return her now, and we'll forget this transgression." Lira stepped forward before Rowan could respond. "I'm not property, and I'm not going anywhere." Gideon's eyes narrowed, then he laughed. "Ha! The wolfless girl found her voice. How charming. But you don't understand what you are, child. You belong with the council, where your power can be properly controlled, properly utilized." "Utilized?" Lyra's voice dropped to ice. "You mean forced to mate with your son, to create your dynasty. Rowan's investigators found your correspondence in Alaric's study." Silence fell over the army. Gideon's face darkened. "You've been reading things that don't concern you." "They concern me when they're about selling me like breeding stock." Silver light flickered in her eyes. "I am Lira Mooncrest, Silver Luna, and I answer to no one." "Silver Luna or not, you're one girl." Gideon gestured at his army. "We are hundreds. You may be the first Alpha, Darkwater, but even you can't stand against this force." Rowan's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Try me." "Last chance. Send her down, or we take her by force." "She stays." Rowan's voice carried absolute finality. "Leave now and live. Stay and learn why legends speak my name in whispers." Gideon raised his hand. "So be it." The army surged forward. "To the gates!" Frost's voice rang out. Shadow Peak warriors poured from the citadel, rogues and outcasts, scarred and fierce, ready to defend their home. Rowan turned to Lira. "Stay behind the walls." "No!" Her wolf rose, hungry for battle. "I fight." "Lira, you said I wasn't fragile. Prove you meant it." Their eyes locked. Then Rowan's rare smile appeared, fierce and proud. "Stay close to me." They descended to the gates as the armies clashed. The sound was deafening, wolves snarling, weapons ringing, warriors shouting. Rowan shifted mid-stride, his massive black wolf tearing into the front lines like death incarnate. Brutal, efficient, unstoppable. Lira shifted too, her white wolf stunning the council warriors into momentary hesitation. Then she was among them and instinct took over. She was faster than they expected, stronger,
Her jaws found throats, her claws raked armor, her power sang through her veins like liquid silver. A council wolf lunged for her flank. She spun, catching her with her command, "Stop!" The wolf froze mid-leap, collapsing at her feet. Around her, dozens of enemy wolves stumbled, fighting her power. "Kneel," she commanded, and they dropped like puppets with cut strings. She heard Rowan's approval in her mind. Magnificent. They moved together instinctively, him protecting her left, her covering her right. When he drove forward, she defended his flank. When she pushed into enemy territory, he cleared the path. Their powers pulsed in sync, feeding each other, amplifying. But Gideon hadn't brought ordinary warriors. "Nets," Gideon commanded. Specialized hunters emerged from the ranks, carrying silver nets that glowed with dark magic. They moved with precision, targeting Lira specifically. A net flew toward her. She dodged, but another came from her blind side. The silver mesh wrapped around her wolf, burning, draining her strength. She yelped, going down hard. Rowan's roar shook the mountain itself. His power exploded outward, pure alpha command that made every wolf within 100 yards cower. He partially shifted, taking his hybrid form. 7 feet of muscle and fur and fury, neither fully wolf nor fully human, but something ancient and terrifying.
He tore through the hunters like they were paper dolls. Magic couldn't touch him. He was the first alpha, the progenitor, and they'd made the mistake of threatening his mate. Lira struggled free of the net, her wolf wounded but furious. She saw Gideon flanking Rowan, going for his blind side while he fought the hunters. "Rowan!" She lunged, intercepting Gideon's attack. Her jaws closed on his shoulder, throwing him back. Gideon snarled, shifting to his rust-colored wolf, larger than normal, scarred from countless battles. He circled her, calculating. "You're wasted on him." Gideon's voice entered her mind, oily and cold. "Join the council. Rule beside us. We can give you everything." "I don't want your everything." Her wolf's voice was silver and steel. "I want my freedom." They clashed, teeth and claws and fury. He was experienced, brutal, but she was faster, and her power was older than his bloodline. When he lunged for her throat, she twisted, using his momentum to flip him onto his back. Her jaws closed around his throat, not killing, but dominating. "Yield," she commanded. Gideon's wolf whimpered, forced into submission by her power. Around them, the battle had turned. Rowan stood in the center of the battlefield in his hybrid form, surrounded by defeated warriors. None dead, he'd been careful, but all thoroughly beaten. The bond between Lira and Rowan pulsed once, strong and certain. Their powers merged between them, like 2 rivers meeting. Silver-gold light exploded from their bodies. The shockwave threw every enemy wolf back, including Gideon. Warriors tumbled like leaves in a storm, their weapons clattering to the stone. The pure force of the combined power was overwhelming, ancient and new, masculine and feminine, darkness and light perfectly balanced. When the light faded, silence reigned. Gideon lay unconscious, his armor cracked. His warriors struggled to rise, staring at Lira and Rowan with fear and awe. "Leave," Rowan commanded, his voice carrying to every corner of the battlefield. "Take your alpha and go. Tell the council that Lira Mooncrest is under my protection. Any who challenge that will face us both." The warriors didn't need to be told twice. They grabbed their fallen leader and retreated, limping and broken, but alive. Frost approached, grinning despite the blood on her armor. "About time someone put Gideon on his ass." Lira shifted back to human form, breathing hard. Her fighting leathers were torn,
Blood, not all hers, staining the fabric. But she was alive, victorious. Rowan shifted beside her, his hand immediately finding hers. You saved me. You saved me first. Their eyes locked, and the bond between them blazed bright enough to see in daylight. Around them, Shadow Peak warriors cheered, weapons striking shields in celebration. They'd won. Together. Chapter 9. The Bond is Claimed. The Citadel's healers rushed forward as the last of Gideon's forces disappeared over the horizon. Lira stood in torn leathers, blood staining the gray fabric, some hers, most not. A slash across her ribs burned, but adrenaline kept the pain at bay. Rowan shifted back to human form beside her, a deep gash across his shoulder bleeding freely. Their eyes met, and the bond between them pulsed so strongly she gasped. You're hurt, they said simultaneously. Despite everything, Lira almost laughed. Your shoulder, your ribs. Come. He took her hand, pulling her toward the citadel. We need to clean these wounds. Frost appeared, grinning despite the blood on her own armor. We held them, minimal casualties, a few injuries, but we held. Because of her, Rowan said, never looking away from Lira. They'll take twice before challenging us again. He led her through corridors to his private chambers, rooms she'd never entered. Dark stone walls, massive fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the mountains. A warrior's room, sparse but elegant. He guided her to sit on the edge of his bed, retrieving medical supplies from a chest. His hands were surprisingly gentle as he examined the slash across her ribs. It's not deep, he said, his voice rough. But it needs cleaning. Your shoulder is worse. She reached for him, and he let her turn him, examining the gash. This needs stitches. Then we tend each other. They worked in silence, careful and thorough. Lira cleaned his wound first, her hands steady despite the trembling in her chest. He bore the pain without flinching, gold eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he tended her ribs with the same care. His fingers brushed her skin, and everywhere he touched left trails of fire. You saved me, he said, finally, his voice barely above a whisper. When Gideon attacked, you intercepted him. You saved me first, the hunters with the nets. We saved each other. His hand lingered on her waist, just below the bandaged slash. That's what mates do. The word hung between them. Mates. Lyra's breath caught. Is that what we are? Can you deny it? His gold eyes searched hers. The bond, the way our powers synchronized, the fact that I can feel every emotion you have right now? She couldn't. The truth blazed between them, the thread of light, the pull that made being apart feel like missing a limb. I'm terrified, she admitted. Of me? Of losing this, of losing you. Her voice cracked. Everyone I've ever cared about either died or betrayed me. What if… He cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. I can't lose you. Do you understand? When that hunter caught you, when I saw you go down, his voice turned rough. I would have burned the world to ash to reach you. Rowan, I've waited 500 years. 500 years of searching, of hoping, of believing you existed somewhere. His forehead pressed against hers. I won't lose you now. Emotion overwhelmed her. Relief, desire, something deeper that felt like recognition, like coming home after being lost forever. Then don't, she whispered. Don't let me go. Never. The kiss happened like breathing, necessary, inevitable, right. His lips claimed hers with 5 centuries of longing, and she met him with equal hunger. The bond between them exploded, light flooding the room.
Power surged through their connected bodies. Lira gasped as a light erupted from her skin. Gold light answered from Rowan, the two colors twining together like living things. On her left shoulder blade, heat blossomed. She broke the kiss, looking down to see a mark appearing, a perfect silver crescent moon, glowing with otherworldly light. Rowan's eyes widened. He turned slightly, and she saw it, a gold sun mark appearing on his right shoulder blade, matching hers perfectly. The mating marks, he breathed. The bond is completing. Their eyes met, and Lira saw her own reflection in his gold gaze, her eyes flashing with both silver and gold simultaneously. His eyes mirrored the effect, gold and silver swirling together. Power flowed between them, no longer separate, but merged. She could feel his strength steadying her wildness. He could feel her light balancing his darkness. Two halves of one whole, finally united. Outside, the storm that had raged during the battle suddenly broke. Moonlight flooded through the windows, pure and clean. In the courtyard below, flowers erupted from frozen ground, white roses and golden lilies blooming despite the winter cold. Throughout the citadel, wolves began to howl, a celebration, a recognition. Ancient magic stirred, acknowledging what had been written in the stars 500 years ago. Rowan pulled her close, his voice carrying command weight but softened with wonder. Mine, my Luna, my queen, my mate. Lyra's response came from her soul, her wolf, every part of her that had been waiting for this moment. Mine, my alpha, my king, my home. Ours, they said together. The marks on their shoulders blazed bright, then settled into a steady glow. The bond thread between them was no longer just visible, it was tangible, unbreakable, eternal. They held each other as power pulsed through their joined bodies. The silver Luna had found her mate. The progenitor king had found her queen. And nothing in this world or any other could tear them apart. Outside, nature responded to their union. Trees that had been bare suddenly budded. Ice melted from streams. Life returned to the frozen landscape, as if the world itself celebrated their bond. Lira rested her head against Rowan's chest, listening to his heartbeat sync with hers. For the first time in 7 years, in her entire life, she felt complete. She'd been sold like property, bought by a king, and found everything she'd never known she needed. Home, she whispered. Forever, he answered.
Chapter 10. Truth Revealed. 2 weeks had passed since the bond completion. 2 weeks of Rowan's people gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, building an undeniable case. Now they were going back. Lira stood before the mirror wearing silver armor over a midnight blue gown. Her platinum hair was braided with silver thread, and on her head, the Luna crown Rowan had found in his archives, a delicate circlet of silver shaped like crescent moons. Rowan entered wearing full royal armor, black metal chased with silver, ancient runes carved into every surface. Every inch the progenitor king. Ready? He asked, taking her hand. I've been ready for 7 years. They rode out at dawn with Frost and 20 warriors. Not an army. They didn't need one. The Crescent Moon Pack territory appeared as the sun reached its peak. Pack members stopped to stare. Some backed away. Others knelt immediately, recognizing power when they saw it. Open the doors, Lira commanded. Guards scrambled to obey. The grand hall fell silent as they entered. Alaric sat at the head table, wineglass halfway to his lips. He froze. The glass slipped, shattering on stone. Senna stood beside him,
emerald eyes going wide with calculation and fear. Sky, her sister's blue eyes, filled with tears of joy. The crowd parted as Lira walked forward. Her white wolf was visible in her silver eyes. "You were sold," Alaric stammered. Silence. The command hit him like a physical blow. Around the room, wolves dropped to their knees. Lira stopped before the platform where she'd stood in chains. "I am Lira Mooncrest, Silver Luna, Queen of the Shadow Peak Realm, mate to Rowan Darkwater, the first Alpha, and I have returned." Thunder rumbled despite clear sky. Wind howled. The moon became visible in daylight, nature responding to her declaration. "I didn't come for revenge," Lira said. "I came for justice and truth." Frost stepped forward with documents. "For 2 weeks, we investigated the crimes committed against the Mooncrest bloodline. What we discovered was systematic murder and conspiracy." She placed documents on the head table. 8 years ago, Senna Whitmore discovered records showing Lyra's mother descended from the moon goddess's original blessing line. Instead of protecting this sacred bloodline, she conspired to eliminate it. The pack healer stepped forward, trembling. "I was ordered to administer the poison. Small doses of wolfsbane mixed into her food over 6 months. Tears streamed down her face. Vespera Mooncrest trusted me, and I killed her." "You were coerced," Gentlira said. "Threatened. You're not on trial here. He is." She looked at Alaric. More witnesses came forward. Elders threatened into silence. Warriors who'd seen Senna forging documents framing Lyra's mother for treason. A merchant who'd delivered wolfsbane under Alaric's orders. "The pack's debt to the Northern Council was fabricated," Rowan announced, his voice carrying command weight. Rowan's investigators found correspondence between Alaric and the High Alpha. Gideon wanted to force Lira into mating with his son, creating an unstoppable dynasty. Alaric created false records of a failed expansion to justify selling her. "Why?" someone called out. "Why go through all this?" Lira stepped forward. "Because they sensed my power, even dormant. They felt the potential in my bloodline and were terrified. So they tried to break me first. 7 years of abuse, starvation, and isolation. And when that didn't destroy me, they sold me." She looked directly at Senna. "You wanted my mother's crown, her position, but you knew that when my power woke, I would eclipse everything you tried to be." Senna's face twisted with rage. "You don't understand, living in your mother's shadow while everyone revered her. When she died, I finally had a chance." "So you poisoned her." Lyra's voice was ice. "You murdered Aluna, my mother, and then you wore her necklace like a trophy." "She was going to tell you." Senna's composure cracked completely. "About your bloodline, your power. She was going to reveal everything on your 18th birthday. I couldn't let you take what should have been mine." Gasps of horror rippled through the pack. "You just condemned yourself," Frost said coldly. Lira turned to Alaric. "My mother trusted you. She called you friend. She made you promise to protect her daughters." Alaric's bloodshot eyes finally met hers. "I kept you alive." "You kept me as a slave." Silver light flickered around Lira. "You broke your oath. You allowed her murder. You fabricated crimes to sell me, all because you were too weak to stand up to your own daughter." She gathered her power. "I strip you of your alpha title. Your wolf answers to me." Silver light exploded from her, washing over Alaric. His wolf whimpered, submitting.
The alpha power that had defined him vanished. He collapsed, broken. An elderly man stepped forward. Elder Marcus, one of the pack elders who'd testified. "My Lady Luna, if you'll permit, I would serve as temporary alpha until this pack can choose its own worthy leader. Will you protect the weak, punish the corrupt, be what Alaric should have been?" Marcus bowed deeply. "On my life and honor, I swear it." Lira removed her mother's necklace from Senna's throat. "You are both stripped of rank and banished. If you return, you answer to me." Guards dragged them from the hall. Then the rain stopped. After weeks of constant downpour, sunlight broke through clouds. In the courtyard, flowers erupted from frozen ground, white roses and golden lilies blooming impossibly. "The curse is lifted," someone whispered. Lira addressed the assembled pack. "I don't rule this pack, but I protect the innocent within it. Any wolf who suffers injustice can seek sanctuary at Shadow Peak, and any alpha who sells their pack members as slaves answers to me. This is my declaration." Wind howled, the moon visible despite daylight. Birds burst into song. Nature itself acknowledged her authority. One by one, every wolf knelt, not compelled, but choosing to. Sky broke free, running to Lira. They embraced, both crying. "I knew you'd come back," Sky whispered. "Always," Lira promised. "And now you're coming with me, to Shadow Peak, where you'll be safe." She looked at Rowan, pride blazing in his gold eyes. Lira fastened her mother's ceremonial necklace around her own throat. The metal was warm, as if it had been waiting all these years to return home. Justice had come to Crescent Moon Pack, and it wore a silver crown.
Chapter 11. The Council Bows. The grand hall doors opened as the sun climbed higher. 3 figures entered in ceremonial robes of gray and white. Representatives from the Northern Council, come to make official what the battle had already proven. At their center walked High Elder Margrave, an elderly man with white hair flowing past his shoulders, dark skin dignified with age, and kind brown eyes. He leaned on a crystal-topped cane that marked his authority as the council's voice. Elder Marcus, the newly appointed temporary alpha, stepped forward to greet them. "High Elder Margrave, the pack is honored by your presence." Margrave nodded to him, then turned his gaze to Lira. "Elder Marcus will serve this pack well until a worthy permanent alpha is chosen, but I have come in my official capacity as representative of the Northern Council." "High Elder," Lira said, bowing slightly. Margrave's eyes softened. "I knew your mother, child. I should have investigated her death when rumors reached the council. I failed you both." Genuine regret colored his voice. "I cannot undo that failure, but I can ensure the future is different." He stepped forward, his cane tapping a deliberate rhythm that made every wolf fall silent. "By the old laws," Margrave announced, his voice carrying command weight despite his age, "by the authority vested in the Northern Council since the founding of the packs, I make this declaration." He turned to face the assembled wolves. "We acknowledge Lira Mooncrest as Silver Luna, mate to Rowan Darkwater, the first alpha. Her bloodline is confirmed, her power is verified, her authority is recognized." Thunder rumbled outside. "The old laws place her authority above all regional packs. She answers to no alpha, no council, no power save the moon goddess herself." Rowan stepped forward.
Any pack that threatens her answers to me." The words hung like a blade. No one moved. High Elder Theron, one of Margrave's companions, bowed deeply. "The Northern Council accepts these terms. High Alpha Gideon faces trial for his crimes against the Mooncrest bloodline and his attack on Shadow Peak Citadel." "See that justice is done," Lira said, command in her voice, "or I will do it myself." "It will be done, my Lady Luna." Then the air itself changed. The rain that had fallen over Crescent Moon territory for weeks since Lyra's mother died suddenly stopped. Not gradually, but instantly. Sunlight broke through clouds in golden streams. Outside, in dead winter, flowers erupted from frozen ground. White roses and golden lilies burst into impossible bloom, covering the courtyard. "The land recognizes true Luna," Margrave whispered, in wonder in his ancient voice. "The blessing is restored." Lira felt it, the earth itself responding to her presence. The territory that had suffered under false leadership now breathed freely. She turned to face the assembled pack. "I don't rule this pack, but I protect the innocent within it." She looked at Sky. "My sister is under my protection. Any who threaten her answer to me." Then to the entire hall. "Any wolf who suffers injustice can seek sanctuary at Shadow Peak. Our doors are open to those who need refuge, training, hope." Her voice grew stronger. "And any alpha who sells their pack members as slaves, who abuses their authority, who murders the innocent, they answer to me. This is my declaration. This is my law." Wind howled. The moon became visible despite daylight. Birds burst into song. Margrave tapped his cane 3 times. "Let it be recorded. Let it be known. The Silver Luna has returned. The old laws are restored. A new order begins." Every wolf in the hall knelt, not compelled but choosing to. Even High Elder Theron and Elder Marcus bowed their heads. Lyra stood in her silver armor and Luna crown, Rowan beside her, and felt the weight of what they'd created. Not just justice for herself, but protection for every wolf who'd suffered as she had. The bond marks on their shoulders blazed, silver moon and gold sun, perfectly matched. "The world has changed," Rowan said softly. "Good. It needed to." Outside, flowers continued blooming. The sun shone bright and warm. And in the grand hall where she'd been sold like property, Lira Mooncrest stood as queen, rewriting every rule that had tried to break her. The Silver Luna had returned, and she'd brought a new dawn with her.
Chapter 12. The Rightful Throne. 3 days later, Shadow Peak Citadel gleamed under moonlight. The throne room had been prepared for a formal court, the first in 500 years. Lyra stood before the massive doors, wearing a gown of midnight blue silk beneath her silver armor. The Luna crown rested on her platinum hair, and her mother's ceremonial necklace gleamed at her throat. Rowan appeared beside her in full royal regalia, black and silver armor polished to perfection, his ancient sword at his back, the dark cloak billowing behind him. His gold eyes swept over her with pride and something warmer. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she admitted, "but let's do it anyway." He took her hand, their bond marks pulsing in perfect rhythm. Together. Always. The doors swung open. The throne room was magnificent. Vaulted ceilings carved with ancient symbols,
massive windows showing the mountains bathed in moonlight, torches casting dancing shadows on black stone walls. And at the far end, 2 thrones. Not one throne with a smaller seat beside it, not a king's throne with a consort's chair behind it. 2 thrones, side by side, equal in size and grandeur, both carved from black stone, one with silver cushions and white fur, the other with gold cushions and black fur. Equal. Frost stood at attention with 20 warriors, all in ceremonial armor. Below, in the great hall, the entire citadel had gathered, 237 wolves who'd found sanctuary here. And in the front row, wearing a new gown of pale blue, stood Sky. Her sister smiled through happy tears. Lira and Rowan walked forward together, their steps perfectly synchronized. Every wolf in the room bowed as they passed, not out of fear, but respect freely given. They reached the thrones and turned to face their people. "Rise," Rowan commanded, and the assembly stood as one. Frost stepped forward, her ice-blue eyes gleaming with fierce pride. 500 years ago, the first Alpha built this citadel as sanctuary for those who didn't fit. Tonight, that sanctuary gains its queen. She drew her sword, holding it up in salute. "Hail, Lira Mooncrest, Silver Luna, Queen of Shadow Peak!" "Hail!" the assembled wolves roared, weapons striking shields in thunderous approval. Lyra's throat tightened with emotion. These warriors, scarred, exiled, broken by their old packs, had become her family. "You honor me," she said, her voice carrying to every corner. "All of you. You've shown me what true pack means. Not blood or territory, but choice, loyalty freely given, strength shared." She looked at each face, warriors she'd trained with, scholars from the library, healers who'd tended her wounds, wolves young and old who'd found home here. Shadow Peak isn't just sanctuary anymore. It's proof that the old ways can change, that outcasts can become legends, that power used rightly protects instead of destroys. Rowan's voice joined hers, deep and resonant. "Other packs are already seeking alliance. They've seen what we built here, rogues and exiles becoming an unbreakable force. They want that strength, that unity. And we'll share it. Any pack that treats its members with honor, any alpha who leads with justice, they have our alliance, our protection." She sat on her throne, and Rowan sat beside her. Their hands met across the throne arms, fingers intertwining. The bond marks on their shoulders glowed softly, constantly. "Let the court begin," Rowan declared. Representatives from 3 different packs stepped forward, bearing gifts and requests for alliance. Frost presented reports on training programs. A scholar requested permission to establish a school for young wolves. A healer asked for resources to open a clinic in the valley. Lira listened to each, making decisions with Rowan, not him commanding and her agreeing, but true partnership. They debated, compromised, decided together. This was what ruling meant, not power over others, but responsibility for them. Hours passed, the moon climbed higher. Finally, the formal business concluded. Before Frost could speak, Lira caught sight of Sky in the front row. Her sister's eyes, those blue eyes with silver flakes, flickered with light, just for a moment, but unmistakable. Lira descended from her throne and approached Sky, taking her hands. Your wolf is waking, isn't it? Sky's breath caught. I can feel her, like you described, waiting. When she comes, I'll be here to teach you, touching her sister gently. Our mother's legacy lives in both of us. You're not alone in this. Sky's eyes filled with tears, happy ones this time. I'm not afraid, not anymore, not with you here. You never have to be afraid again. She pulled her into an embrace. We'll face it together. When Lira returned to her throne, Rowan's eyes held warmth and approval. He understood. Family protected family. Always. One more thing, Frost announced, grinning. A celebration is customary when a queen takes her throne. Music erupted from below, drums and pipes and strings creating a wild, joyous melody. The great hall below the throne room filled with dancing wolves, laughter echoing off stone walls. But Lira and Rowan had eyes only for each other. Rowan stood, extending his hand. Dance with me, my queen? Always, my king. They descended to the great hall floor, and the crowd parted to give them space. They moved together as they fought, perfectly synchronized, reading each other's movements instinctively. The bond between them sang, a luminous thread visible to anyone who looked closely. Sky danced nearby with young warriors who made her laugh, her face glowing with hope for her own awakening. Frost sparred playfully with other guards. Wolves who'd been enemies in other packs danced together as friends. This was what they'd built, what they'd fought for. Lira rested her head against Rowan's chest as the music slowed. His heartbeat matched hers perfectly. 500 years I waited, he murmured, worth every moment. I was sold for a debt I didn't owe, she whispered back. And I paid triple what you were worth. She pulled back, mock offended. Only triple? His smile was warm and genuine. My mistake. You're priceless. Better. They kissed as their people cheered, as music swelled, as the citadel celebrated its queen. Above them, through the windows, the moon shone full and bright. Flowers bloomed in the courtyards despite winter cold. The very stones of Shadow Peak seemed to hum with contentment. The silver Luna had returned, and found not just her mate, but her purpose. To protect, to lead, to prove that strength and compassion weren't opposites, but two sides of the same blade. The world was changing, and Lira Mooncrest would make sure it changed for the better. Chapter 13. Home at last. The celebration continued below, but Lira and Rowan slipped away quietly, seeking the privacy of their balcony. They stood watching the moon climb over the mountains, his arms wrapped around her from behind, her head resting against his chest. The bond marks on their shoulders glowed softly, pulsing in perfect rhythm with their hearts. Below, the citadel was alive with light and laughter. Music drifted up on the night breeze, along with the scent of blooming flowers that shouldn't exist in winter. I was sold for a debt, Lira murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. And I paid triple. Rowan's voice held warmth and humor. Best investment I ever made. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. Best purchase you ever made? His gold eyes softened, one hand coming up to cup her face. Only one that mattered. Lira traced the 3 claw scars on his cheek, marks he'd given himself after betrayal, marks that no longer represented failure but survival. I was nothing, she said softly, wolfless, worthless, told every day that I didn't deserve to breathe. You were everything,
His voice was absolute certainty. Just waiting. Waiting for your power to wake. Waiting for someone who could see what you truly were. And what was I? A queen who didn't know her crown yet. He kissed her forehead, right where the Luna mark glowed silver beneath her skin. A wolf waiting for her equal. A light that needed darkness to make it shine brighter. She reached up, touching his face with both hands. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for choosing me. His voice roughened with emotion. After everything I'd done, everything I'd lost, I didn't think I deserved. You deserve everything, she interrupted. You built a home for the broken. You waited 500 years. You saw worth where others saw garbage. The bond between them pulsed once, strong and bright, silver gold light that made the air shimmer. Behind them, a sound made them turn. Through the window of their chambers, 2 wolves were visible, one white with silver-tipped fur, one black with gold eyes. Their wolf forms curled together in perfect contentment. Lira smiled. They look happy. They are. Rowan turned her back to face the view. We all are. The moon hung full and bright above them, larger than it should be, as if the moon goddess herself watched and approved. Stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on velvet. In the courtyard below, white roses and golden lilies bloomed in impossible profusion. The land itself celebrated their union. I never thought I'd have this. A home, a family, someone who sees me as more than... You are more. His arms tightened around her. You always were. They just couldn't see it. She turned fully in his embrace, and they stood forehead to forehead, breathing in sync. Home, she whispered. Forever, he answered. They kissed as the moon watched, as flowers bloomed as their pack celebrated below. Not a desperate kiss like after battle, but something deeper, a promise, a recognition, a claiming that would last beyond death itself. The bond marks blazed bright, then settled into a steady glow that would never fade. When they finally pulled apart, Lira looked out at their kingdom, the mountains and forests, the citadel full of outcasts who'd become legends, the territories beyond where other wolves were learning that power could be merciful. We're going to change everything, she said. We already have. Rowan's voice held quiet pride. Other packs are watching, seeing what we built, realizing there's another way. Good. Silver light flickered in her eyes. Let them watch, let them learn, and let them know that if they abuse their power, if they treat their wolves as slaves, we'll be there, he finished. Together. Together, she agreed. Below, the celebration continued. Frost's laughter rang out. Sky danced with young warriors. Wolves from a dozen different packs moved as one family. The world was changing. Slowly, painfully, but changing. And at the center of it all stood a girl who'd been sold like property and a king who'd been called a monster. Together, they were rewriting every rule. Lira leaned back against Rowan's chest, his arms secure around her, and felt complete peace for the first time in her life. She'd been broken, she'd been sold, she'd been told she was worthless, but she survived. She found her power, she claimed her crown, and she'd found the one person in all the world who saw her, really saw her, and loved what he found. I love you, she whispered. I know. His lips brushed her temple. I've loved you since the moment I felt your power wake, since I saw you standing in those chains, defiant even in defeat, since you pinned me in training and grinned like you'd conquered the world. I love you too, she said, turning to look at him. My king, my mate, my home. And you are mine, my Luna, my queen, my everything. They stood together as the moon reached its peak, as flowers bloomed around the citadel, as nature itself celebrated their bond. The silver Luna had returned. She'd found her true king, and together they would build a world where no wolf ever had to feel worthless again, where outcasts became family, where power protected instead of destroyed,
where love conquered even 5 centuries of loneliness. Home. Forever. The end.
This story ends here. Thanks for listening. Tell us what you liked most in the comments. Your thoughts matter to us. Support our channel by liking this video and subscribing for new stories.